Look at you, smiling.
I had a baby boy 3 days ago. Not myself, my wife did.
Is it your first?
It's my second kid. I have a girl, and we just had a baby boy, and I am...
this is the important part.
I've slept about 3 hours or 9 hours in the past 3 days.
Which is kind of like the right way to depress.
Yeah.
Your answers are not going to make any sense, but they're going to be the best
I'm
ones.
drunker than anyone you've ever interviewed, and I haven't had a drink tonight. That's what's going on right now.
But you must be sort of jazzed over how this movie played. It's been a long time coming, but it actually played really... I was sort of gearing myself, I was preparing myself, maybe this is small, micro, not
Absolutely.
So great, and
No.
I loved it.
I'm glad you loved
Thank
it.
you.
I mean, it's interesting. We were having the same feeling because it took us so long to get it out. We're like, I think people are going to think this one's a stinkeroo because it's been sitting around for 4 years. And
Were you worried about it yourselves?
There was, honestly... There was never a moment of worry about whether the film would be good or not. Our only concern was it's been 4 years since we shot it, and what kind of place will it have? Because honestly, the movie is a micro-budgeted, large-scale film in a lot of ways. We make jokes how it's like it feels like the biggest movie we've made in terms of set pieces on some level. Yet it was shot for very cheaply.
What I really like about it is that what you guys do works here. And it works really well.
Yeah.
And these guys, exactly who they were, based on real guys down the street.
Yeah, we grew up next door, or not next door, but down the street from two brothers who were born so close to each other that the only way that they could, show their appreciation for each other was by beating the crap out of one another in sports, and more specifically in like parlor type sports. Sports like pool and ping pong that exist in your family home. So that was, the inspiration for it.
And they're just so childlike, but it's also that dynamic of the guy who's married and the guy who's not, and you dig into that very effectively as well.
Thank you.
So the way that you've gone on from very micro budgets, you've slowly built your way up. You did Cyrus at Fox Searchlight and Jeff Who Lives at Home at Paramount, and then you came back to this. Was it a question of recognizing the resources were limited, or that you would have done it differently 4 years later, or were you pleased with what you saw?
We were really, we were very pleased with the audience's reaction to it tonight. When we thought about making this movie a while ago, we had just come out of making Baghead. And this was actually a script that for a while was planned to be a big studio movie. And
Which
it was
one?
Originally written that way. I can't say that. But it was planned to be that way. And there was a moment, and I don't know if it was because we hadn't made a big studio yet, we were a little fearful of that, where we decided, we want to take this ourselves and make it with our friends and people that we know and trust. So, the only thing for us was like, would people want to see this kind of movie that we used to make after they've seen Cyrus and Jeff Who Lives at Home? And that the jury's still out on that. I hope they do. I hope they say, I want to see. We see it almost as like the third film in an unofficial trilogy of Puffy Chair to Baghead to the Do-Deca Pentathlon. And we want to continue to make movies like this. We're not graduating from micro-budget cinema. We talk about going back and making movies this small all the time.
But the idea that you pulled back from the studio, what was the emotion and the thought there? Why were you afraid to go there?
Well, Mark and I have been offered studio films from the moment that we made the Puffy Chair. It took us a long time to get to Cyrus, to develop the right relationship, to get to the point where we felt like we're going to make a good movie, and we're going to make one of our movies in the studio system. And people seem to be surprised by the fact that, after Puffy Chair, we were getting offered a lot of really big stuff way bigger than even Cyrus was.
But not necessarily stuff you'd written yourself.
No, not stuff we had written, and stuff that, we weren't, it would be very hard for us to put our stamp on. And so, it just took us a long time to find that right spot. And, there aren't, you really have to cultivate your relationships, and you really have to cultivate each film if you want it to turn out the way that you want it to turn out. Because Mark and I don't feel like we have had to make any compromises really in our studio filmmaking.
Not apparent ones.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy, but it does take a lot of work that people don't ever see. And on any film, that we've developed that we didn't make in a studio system, it pretty much came down to the fact that like we felt like we weren't going to make a great film. We felt like we weren't going to make a film that was special to us.
You've been remarkably astute that way, and it's one of the reasons why you're doing so well. Now, to ask you that, though, on Jeff, was that a case where you felt completely 100% in control? And the studio did not say anything, do anything?
It sounds like I'm answering a press question and being nice to them, but we really got to do what we wanted to do on that movie. And part of that was the nature of Jason Reitman setting us up and using his relationships with his financier and his studio to protect us and being a great big brother to us, even though he's younger than both of us, but we don't need to talk about that. And part of it was they saw the film similar to how we see it creatively. And part of it was that we learned how to function in the studio system through Cyrus. That was kind of our learning
Although
phase.
that was Searchlight, so that's a
it's
subsidiary.
A little bit different.
Yeah.
But also with Jeff, Indian Paintbrush paid for the whole film, and Paramount was just our distributor.
That helps.
And quite honestly, we've developed a model. It's hard to exactly explain, but the easiest way to talk about it is that we're trying to make mainstream art films with a certain cast that guarantees we can make them the way we want to make them. And a movie like Jeff Who Lives at Home that has Jason Segal and Ed Helms and Susan Sarandon is normally a much higher budgeted film than what we made it for. And because of that, we ask everybody to say, listen, we're coming in cheap. You'll never lose money on this movie. It's going to make your money back on DVD and TV right away. So look at us like a lottery ticket. Let us make our brand of thing. If you love it, push it. If not, you can't lose. And we're hoping that we can get tenure to make our stuff that way, because we have never lost anybody any money.
So next